Okay, I want you to think about this. If you know that you're making really good money, but yet you're feeling financially stressed, I want you to think about this. If your 19-year-old self was making the kind of money that you are making today, and you could say, maybe just keep a smaller house, or maybe just only have used cars, or just make different choices with your money, and you're going to be set up for success. Wouldn't that be great if we could go back and tell ourselves that? That's what we're going to talk about today, is lifestyle creep. Okay, so if you're wondering what exactly is lifestyle creep, lifestyle spending. So this is when your income starts increasing and your spending just keeps up with it. And it's coupled with the fact generally that you're not saving enough. You're not setting yourself up for financial success in the future because you're just spending a lot of the money as it comes in, and it's not by acquiring assets that are growing in value. Some of the examples that I can mention here, and they're not, always like this, but I'm sure that you can identify with some or others. So first would be a house, right? A lot of times, we have a thing here in America called the starter house, right? So a lot of times people start out small, and then as their income grows, as their family grows, they start increasing the size of their house, which of course increases the amount of property taxes generally, and the amount of maintenance and upkeep and all the things that go with that too. In addition to houses, cars is generally the next big ticket item, and those are definitely opposite end of the spectrum from houses because they are usually depreciating in value. I understand that there's always going to be some circumstances where there's exceptions. Some cars are vintage or classics and they may hold their value or even grow in value, but generally speaking, they go down in value if you're using them to drive around. Other things that can be impacted by lifestyle creep is toys, right? And I'm talking like boats, planes, campers, RVs, those kind of things. So lots of spending going on there. Vacations start to get more expensive, a little bit bigger. Hobbies. So if you are a golfer, you might end up getting an even better set of clubs or start playing at a more expensive club, something like that. Kids is another one. And this one I see play out in a lot of different ways because we make a lot of choices when we are trying to think about our kids' future. And so we might make choices about what school we want them to go to, and that can impact a lot of things like where we buy a house, or if you already have a house and then you have to drive your kids every day to school because now they're out of your district. Some of the decisions that we make can really have long-term impacts on our own, financial, stress, all the different things where, these kind of things can play out for a long time. Let's see here. Another one is kids' sports too. So I think a lot of times parents feel like maybe their kid has shown some capabilities early on and they think, oh, I'm going to nurture this and feed this and do what I can to set them up for potentially either a good career in this sport or maybe if they can get scholarships to college. So I understand that sometimes we're looking at this as an investment or even a trade-off. Like if I invest the money in them now, that if they get a college scholarship, then I won't have to pay for that. So, but we understand there's a lot of variables there that are completely out of our control, right? There's a lot of chance and luck and opportunity happening, right time, right place. So those are the different kinds of ways that lifestyle creep generally will show up for people. Now, let's talk about how it can present itself as a problem. So some of the ways that this can show up for you as a problem is being beholden to past decisions that you've already made. So maybe you feel like you're not doing these kind of things anymore, you're not spending so much anymore, but you're still weighed down by past decisions. I really think about this as almost like a hot air balloon that can't get off the ground because it's got all these sandbags. And then once you start to, shed some of your expenses, or if you've got debt and you're paying it off, these kind of things can really start to release you so that, like a hot air balloon, it's able to take off and lift off and you will feel lighter lighter also as well. So, being beholden to those past choices can really mean that, number one, either the money is tight right now or your stress level is high. And I know oftentimes your choices just get limited because you already have all these payments or things that you are responsible for. So how this can show up for people is they feel like they are very limited in choice, or at least all of their decisions are just primarily made based on financial conclusions. So if you are in a job that maybe you don't love or has really long hours or a long commute, but you feel like there really aren't any other options because you can't work less hours or you can't give up any salary, things like that because of financial decisions, then that's where you start to become just a little bit more limited. Maybe one spouse wants to stay home with the kids, but you can't really afford to do that, right? So if you can reduce your spending in a way that you can be saving more and just giving yourself options in the future, that is one way that you can really help yourself out. Another thing that shows up as a problem with lifestyle creep is when you meet with a financial planner. They are trying to help you predict what you're going to need in your future, right? So for retirement or other different kinds of life planning that they're helping you do, one of the questions that they're going to ask you is, what do you want your lifestyle to look like in retirement? And a lot of times we don't always know, and sometimes they or we may just pull from what's currently happening. And so if your current lifestyle is quite expensive, if you're paying a lot for your lifestyle now, then when financial planners will predict out how much money you need to have in order to fund your current lifestyle, that can start to look like a really bleak picture. And you might start to think, there's no way I'm ever going to save that much money, or, this just isn't going to work. And so you call it quits and you don't even bother to try to save. Those are just some things to think about, kind of how this can show up for you. But really, at the end of the day, the more money that you're saving and not spending, it's going to give you financial freedom. You've got more freedom of choice. The more money you're sitting on, it allows you to make decisions more slowly and thoughtfully without just thinking about the money. Okay, so we have talked about what it is and how it can show up as a problem, but now let's talk about how to fix it. So the very first thing that I need you to do is have awareness. You've got to be actually looking at your numbers. And I know sometimes it feels scary to look at the numbers, or if you don't even know how to make sense of them, but what you need to know is how you're currently spending your money today, because you've got to know what kind of things you can change. If you don't even know what impact you can have in your numbers, then it's really hard to know where to start. Once you look at where you are spending your money, I really feel like one of the things you need to look at and analyze is your own personal values. So are there certain things that you're spending money on that maybe aren't the most important thing in the world to you, and can you get rid of that more easily? Some things you realize that, nope, that's something I cannot give up, and whatever that is, you get to make that choice, but if you want things to change, you have to do things differently. So let's just know, what your values are and where you're spending your money so that you can start to look and figure out where you're going to be able to kind of turn that dial a little bit. Another thing is I want you to stop and think for a minute. Have you ever bought something and then looked at it, months or years later and kind of had some regret over it and thought, I really probably shouldn't have bought that, or, that was silly to have spent that much money on that. And honestly, I think that a really good example of this is toys at Christmas time for our children, or holidays, birthdays, whatever. Oftentimes, I remember spending money on certain things that I was just certain my kids were going to love, and they absolutely did not ever play with it after that particular day that they got it. That was it. I mean, it was like fun for 5 minutes and then they never looked at it again. And these were things I really thought, oh, they're going to love that. And they didn't. So that's one of the things that I look at where I realize now, if I could tell my younger self something, it would definitely be about, gift giving and how I would change that. So I just want you to think about, have you ever had regret over past purchases? And then when we need to move forward from here, moving forward, I want you to anticipate future regret. I want you to honestly think through your purchases with so much thought that you can really like play out how it's going to go all the way to the end and then pass that in time, right? I want you to think about that. And it's not only that because you may not regret what you're buying now, but if it comes a time later in life where you need money and you don't have money, at that point, are you potentially going to regret having spent money on these certain things now? So it's a weird little mind trick that you've got to do, but it's something that I really want you to think about is what have you regretted in the past and how can you avoid having that regret in the future? Okay, and the last thing is I say make small, repeatable changes. And this is just because it's like habit forming. Habit forming is a lot of small, incremental changes that are repeatable and you can hold yourself to it. Now, there's some personal finance advice out there that just says like, nope, sell it all. I want you to take your whole life and pivot 180 degrees and then you'll get out of this mess faster. Is that true? Probably so, but it's also hard and sometimes even more difficult to get somebody else on board with those kind of sweeping, decisions that you're making. And so if you think about just making small incremental changes, that will help you to have better modifications long term, and you'll be able to stick to things a little bit better. It's just like diet and exercise, right? Sometimes you just got to like start small, just like start by drinking more water. And if that's all you accomplish for the next month, that is one thing. And then you can move on to the next thing, right? Okay, so I hope that this was helpful for you today. Now, if you feel like you need any kind of help looking at the numbers or understanding what you can change or can have impact on, and you want to just stop thinking about this and start doing something about it, that is what one-on-one coaching is for. So I've linked to that in the description below, and I hope that you will reach out if you have any questions. I am always happy to answer any questions that you have. If you liked today's video, then do check out some of the other videos that I have in this playlist, and also you can subscribe to my channel. Make sure you hit the bell to be notified every time I come out with a new video, and let me know in the comments, what did you think about this? What resonated with you? I would love to hear from you. Until next time, take care. Bye.